We are joined in the studio by Rabea Ataya. He's the founder and chief executive of Bayt.com. Rabea, many thanks for sticking around.
Thank you.
Most people think of Bayt.com as a job site, recruitment, and it's your core business, but you are branching out. We talked about some of those things earlier on, classified adverts. One of the things that really intrigues me is the fact that you now have a venture capital arm. It's called Intellak, which is the Arabic word for launch. And you've got a pot of cash and a load of management expertise there, just waiting for the right entrepreneur to come along. Tell us about this.
Sure. Well, we've been very highly focused on Bayt for the last 10 years, growing it out. And we were, I think, one of the lucky few to be profitable from the outset and to have continued to be cash flow positive since our founding. And that's allowed us to build quite the war chest. And we realized that we've always been contrarian. So we started Bayt.com when the internet in the region was at less than 1% penetration and the dot-com bubble had burst. And when we found that global economies had taken a turn for the worst and we were sitting on a lot of cash without knowing what to do with it, we figured the best way to put it to work was to support other young entrepreneurs in their ventures. And so it's been very interesting. We announced that we were doing this about 10 months ago. We've received dozens of great business plans. We've actually done a couple of term sheets, and we're hoping to close our first transaction probably within the next week or so. So that's exciting times for us.
What types of things are coming across your door? Is it more technology focused? I mentioned before the break your background. You weren't working in recruitment before. You were an HR manager at National Bank of Dubai. You've got a degree in electronic engineering from Stanford University. That's the Google boys, isn't it?
Sure. Well, graduated about the same time as the Google boys, the Yahoo boys, and a lot of Silicon Valley. So I'm their poor distant cousin, I guess.
Not that poor, I suspect. But anyway, carry on.
I think, obviously we're getting all sorts of business plans, and I think what's interesting for us is the challenge of combining both a great idea with a great team. So when we're looking at a lot of these plans, we see some that have wonderful teams but without necessarily a great business idea. In other cases, someone comes to us with a wonderful business idea but is not personally committed to it and hasn't built out a team. And I think the challenge for us is really finding a combination of a good idea with a good person, and we don't mind what field it's in. We're very open to all sorts of suggestions as long as the founding team is passionate about it and we believe they can take it places.
How do you find the transition from being a startup entrepreneur yourself, graduating from Stanford, launching Bayt.com? It was not your first business, but doing really well with it, and now you're like, the wise old head, aren't you? You're the guy people turn to. When did that switch happen?
I think I'm having to continually reinvent myself, as is the organization as a whole. So we're realizing that the skills that we needed when we started up are very different than the skills that we need now. And it hasn't been easy transitions, to be perfectly honest. So every day we wake up and we almost ask ourselves the question, what do we have to do today and who do we have to be today? And that's changed over time. But we realize at this stage of our business, it's fundamentally important that we support young talent in growing out business ventures of their own, because that's the quickest and easiest way for us to expand and really fulfill our objectives as a business.
Stanford's an interesting case study, isn't it? So many great businesses have been born out of Stanford University and others on the east coast of the US, MIT and so on, and Harvard with Facebook. Do you see that here? Are there guys in dorm rooms with great ideas coming out of AUD or Middlesex or AUB?
We're increasingly seeing phenomenal ideas and people who are very creative. What's often missing is management skills to go with that. So if you ask me from an idea perspective, the ideas are there. I almost wish the education system would focus a bit more on management skills, because it's one thing to have a great idea. It's another thing to translate it into a workable, executable plan. And I think that's where we all need to provide support for young entrepreneurs.
Rabea, we're going to have to take a break now. It is 7 o'clock and time for the news. I do hope you can stay with us for just a few moments longer.
Sure.
We have the 7 set questions that we put to all of our victims on The Bigger Picture. I, for one, am dying to know what your favourite business gadget is. And now we get on to the final part of the interview, which is the set questions that we ask to all the guys who join us on The Bigger Picture. And the first one is, Rabea, which business leader would you invite for dinner?
Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, I think, would be my top choice. Obviously built a phenomenal business in all of Dubai, and it would be interesting to hear him talk about the story of how he started it, where it went, and how he managed his people, and what he thinks about that now. I think as we've gone through the ups and downs, I think it would be a phenomenally interesting story.
Tell me about your favorite business gadget.
My Kindle. It allows me to travel all around the world with about 15 kilos less than I used to travel with 6 months ago, so I enjoy it tremendously.
Will you be upgrading or downgrading to an iPad?
I think I'm going to stay with the Kindle for now. Its size is good, and I like the readability of it.
Best business book you've read?
The Innovator's Solution. It's a book written by 2 Harvard professors. Phenomenal. I can't remember having read a business book which I've underlined more and written more notes in the margins of. So I recommend it highly to everyone.
What do you look for when hiring staff for your own organisation?
Excellence. People who have shown in their experience that they've done something extremely well and worked hard at it. And it can be in anything, whether it's sports or work or their education. But it's important to find someone that's actually shown leadership and excellence in something.
What business achievements makes you most proud?
The fact that we've helped perhaps hundreds of thousands of people fulfill their career aspirations through Bayt.com has been immensely rewarding.
And what big idea will shape your industry over the next decade or so? Pick an industry. You're in recruitment and human resources. You're in technology.
I'm primarily in the internet business, and I think it's close to impossible to guess what's going to happen over the next decade. That's like a century in internet time, but it's what keeps it very exciting and fulfilling for us.
If I'd asked you that question 10 years ago when you founded Bayt.com, what do you think your answer might have been?
I would have said the same. I think it's been a bag of surprises since the outset, and that's been what's phenomenally great about it. I think the biggest challenge in our business, if you ask us over the next decade, is the fact that everything is moving to more free models, where everyone's being pushed to offer their services for nothing. And fundamentally, the question is then how do you monetize something? How do you keep that service alive? And so the move to free is definitely the greatest challenge we see over the next 10 years.
Well, Rabea, we're going to have to leave it there, but it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Many thanks indeed for joining us tonight.
Pleasure's been mine. Thank you.
Rabea Ataya, the Chief Executive and Founder of Bayt.com.
Thank you.